Good evening and welcome to the Village Green Drive Public Information Meeting number 2. Today is February 18th, 2021. My name is Jennifer Davis. I am the CRA Project Manager for the City of Port St. Lucie. This evening we're going to be presenting you with some concept plans for the Village Green Drive corridor. And we also will be having an interactive session at the end for questions and answers. The city's team features Heath Stockton, the Assistant Public Works Director, myself, and Avi Menina. He's our Zoom extraordinaire, will be helping us through this evening. In addition, we have several project team members within the city, between the building, business navigator, neighborhood services, parks and recreation, planning and zoning, police, public works, and utilities. In addition, we have coordinated with several outside agencies on this project, including the state, the county, the fire district, the school board, project partners with the local businesses and the residents. This evening, your microphones will be muted during the presentation. If you have a question, we would like for you to use the Q&A feature at the bottom. Not the chat feature, but the Q&A feature. Our staff will be monitoring those questions throughout the presentation, and we will be providing answers at the end. In addition, there will be several polling questions to get your content. And a recording of this meeting will be made available on the project website of cityofpsl.com/villagegreen. One of the things we like to do when we have meetings such as this is to identify where this project lies within the city's strategic plan. This particular project falls under Goal 1, Safe, Clean, and Beautiful. And one of the city's key initiatives is to beautify 2 gateways into the city, the US Highway 1 Village Green Beautification Drive and the design of the St. James Boulevard corridor improvements. To update you briefly, the US 1 Highway Beautification Project is scheduled to be complete on construction with DOT in the summer of 2022, and they have indicated that our landscaping improvements and beautification can happen concurrently. So we hope that that project will wrap up in the summer of 2022 as well. In addition, the St. James Boulevard corridor improvements are currently under design for the plans, and that's scheduled to be complete in June. And for the sake of proximity, the City Center project is one of our very large projects under Goal 4, Diverse Economy and Employment Opportunities. So we like to recognize that that project and this project are adjacent to one another, so we do like to get feedback on those as well. As I mentioned, there will be several polling questions during the presentation. The first 2 questions you're going to receive are going to be practice questions, so we do want to ensure that you're familiar with how to utilize the Zoom polling feature. So we'll go ahead and get started with 2 quick polling questions.
Polling question number 1, are you a full-time or part-time resident of Florida? Full-time resident, part-time, or not a resident, just visiting? You can go ahead and participate now.
And we're going to head and close out that poll, and the responses will pop up.
Oh, everyone is a full-time resident.
All right, thank you for that. And our next polling question.
If you live within the city limits of Port St. Lucie, do you live east or west of the St. Lucie River? Please select 1, east of the river, west of the river, or neither. I do not live within the city limits of Port St. Lucie.
We're going to go ahead and close that poll out.
So 70% live east, 20% west.
Thanks, Melissa. And that's some great feedback, knowing that this project is a focus on the eastern side of Port St. Lucie. So with that, I am going to turn the presentation over to Marlin Engineering, who will be introducing their team and going into the project itself.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Can everybody hear me okay? I'll take that as a yes. Thank you, everybody, for taking your time to join us tonight. Next slide, please. My name is Christina Furman, and I am the project manager with Marlin Engineering. With us tonight, we have Lisa Mack, our planning manager, Rafael Lagos, our senior design engineer, Yang Yang, our urban designer, and Myra Patino filling in for Walter Keller as our senior traffic engineer. That's the Marlin team. We also have Dan Sorrow, our landscape architect with Kotler and Herring. And we also have Melissa Zola and Stacy Ranieri from the Firefly Group. Welcome. So here's our agenda for tonight. The first three topics we'll go over rather quickly since we went into more detail on these topics at the first meeting. You can access that presentation on the project website, which I'll provide to you at the end of the presentation. Next slide. So our project overview. Village Green Drive is a 1.65 mile long roadway connecting the Crosstown Parkway at US 1 and ending at Southeast Tiffany Avenue. This is where the entrance to the St. Lucie Medical Center is. We've separated the roadway into three distinct segments. Segment 1, highlighted in purple, is from US Highway 1 to Industrial Boulevard. Our second segment is Industrial Boulevard to Walton Road, highlighted in orange. And our third segment is Walton Road to Tiffany Avenue, highlighted in light blue. Our project has 4 tasks. Task 1 has been meetings, coordination, and public involvement, and this has been ongoing throughout the project. Task 2 we completed, and it included our data collection and analysis. We're in the middle of Task 3, which includes our conceptual design phase. And then once we complete this task, we'll be moving into Task 4, which is the final master plan, and hopefully a preferred alternative. Next slide, or Melissa, the poll question.
Our third poll, have you participated previously prior to today's meeting? Please select 1. Yes, I have attended the October 8th, 2020 virtual public information meeting. Yes, I completed the online survey. Yes, I attended the stakeholder meetings. Yes, in some other way. Yes, I have participated in more than one of the above mentioned meetings or surveys. Or no, this is my first time participating. And you can go ahead and select your answer.
And we'll go ahead and close that survey out.
So it looks like 53%, this is the first time participating, followed by 26% participated in the first virtual public information meeting, and 16% completed the survey.
Great, thank you, Melissa. Looks like we've got some newbies and some returnees. So thank you for joining us. Next slide. All right, so we're going to be discussing the issues and opportunities where we conducted a SWOT analysis, which provided us an overview of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats along the corridor. Next slide, please. There are many strengths here, which include the businesses, the community, the event center, open space. All these items here provide potential for future growth, beautification, and branding opportunities here in the corridor. Next slide, please. Some of the weaknesses along the corridor, we found missing bicycle pedestrian facilities, the development pattern, which is very autocentric in nature, building facades and transit access, and also the existing transit on the corridor. Next slide. Opportunities are abundant, which include the available right-of-way for the addition of these missing multimodal facilities, green infrastructure for stormwater management, and placemaking, which is creating a sense of place through items like branding, aesthetics, and programming. Next slide. Some threats include speeding. The posted speed limit here is 30 miles an hour, and we found through our data collection effort that the average speed is about 40. At 40 miles an hour, if a pedestrian were to be struck, there's a 90% chance that they would be killed. And of course, this number and the chance begins to decline as the speed declines. Additional threats include ADA access, which are items like curb ramps, crossings, detectable warning pads, push buttons to cross, those type of items. Next slide, please. So next, we're going to be talking about the existing conditions. And just a reminder, we went into more detail on these items at our first meeting. So this table here illustrates the raw data we collected over a 72-hour period, which is the daily traffic along Village Green Drive and the speed. The first 3 rows are between US 1 and Walton Road, and the last 2 rows fall between Walton Road and Southeast Tiffany Avenue. And as you can see here, the first 2 segments have 3 times more traffic than that last segment south of Walton Road. And as I mentioned to you previously, the posted speed limit is 30 miles an hour, and you can see the average speeds were from 35 to 42 miles an hour. And again, this is an average, which means that vehicles were traveling above those speeds. Next slide, please. So as I previously mentioned, the roadway was separated into 3 distinct segments due to the roadway configuration and the available right-of-way. So we're going to quickly go over those 3 segments. Next slide, please. The first segment is what we've dubbed the Northern Gateway, and it connects the Crosstown Parkway. And this is the segment which receives the most traffic. Here, the right-of-way is approximately 100 feet in width. Buildings are set back. You have primarily industrial uses. There's no pedestrian access from the buildings to the roadways. There's 4 lanes of travel separated by a 20-foot median with 16 to 20 feet of landscaping on both sides. There's no transit, bicycle facilities, and no sidewalks with the exception of a small sidewalk near US 1. Landscaping along this section is limited. Next slide, please. The second segment, which we've dubbed the trail connection, is where the right-of-way opens up to about 150 feet. The buildings here are also set back with parking in the front. Same roadway configuration as the previous segment, but there is about 40 feet of landscaping available on both sides. This segment also includes the entrance to the Spanish Lakes Gulf Village community, and there's a canal which connects to the Hog Pen Slough, which we'll discuss later. Again, there's no bicycle or transit facilities, and there's no sidewalks along most of this segment with the exception of a 5-foot concrete sidewalk on the east side, connecting the Spanish Lakes community down to Walton Road. Next slide. The third segment, which we've dubbed Recreational Way, falls between Walton Road and Tiffany Avenue. And it's a little bit different in character and as well as traffic volume than the first 2 segments. Here's where the travel lanes go from 4 to 2. There's no buildings fronting this roadway. You can access City Center from this segment. The right-of-way here is still consistent with the second segment being at 150 feet. There's sidewalks on both sides of the roadway with the exception of a missing link between the entrance of the Midpoint condominium community and Tiffany on the west side. Traffic here is significantly less, and you have the Woodstock Trail on the east side. And there's lots of opportunities here for recreational enhancements along this segment. Next slide, please. So we're going to jump into our conceptual designs. We have 2 concepts present to you tonight. Next slide, please. This is going to be for the first segment, which is US 1 to an industrial boulevard. So the first concept you can see on the top is it includes a 10-foot shared use path and a 10-foot sidewalk, which can also be used as a shared use path. But essentially you have two wide sidewalks on that first concept. The second concept includes two 6-foot sidewalks on each side, a 5-foot separated bicycle lane, separated by a 3-foot concrete barrier. Melissa, poll question, please.
Poll question number 4, select the design concept you prefer for segment 1, US 1 to Industrial Boulevard. Concept 1 is the 10-foot shared use pathway at the top with the 10-foot sidewalk. Concept 2 is the 6-foot sidewalks, the 3-foot concrete buffer, and the 5-foot separated bike lanes. You can go ahead and make your choice. Okay.
We'll go ahead and close that one out.
Looks like it's pretty even, 53% for concept 1 and 47 for concept 2.
All right, going to move on to the second segment, which is Industrial Boulevard to Walton Road, and this is where the right-of-way opens up here. So the first concept, again, it includes the shared use path here at 12 feet and a 10-foot sidewalk on the opposite side. And then you have concept 2 at the bottom there, which includes two 10-foot sidewalks, a 5-foot separated bike lane, separated with, again, a 3-foot concrete barrier. Melissa?
So for your 5th poll, select the design concept you prefer for segment 2, Industrial Boulevard to Walton Road. Concept number 1, a 12-foot shared use pathway and a 10-foot sidewalk. And then concept 2, with a 10-foot sidewalk, two 10-foot sidewalks, a 3-foot concrete buffer, and a 5-foot separated bike lane. You can go ahead and make your selection.
We'll go ahead and close that one out right now.
Same as last time, 53% concept 2 and 47% concept 1. So pretty much right down the middle.
All right, wow. Got a tough audience here. All right, so this is our next segment, which is Walton Road down to Tiffany Avenue. And again, concept 1 includes widening the Woodstock Trail to 12 feet to become a shared use pathway, a 10-foot sidewalk on the opposite side, and we're proposing a 20-foot center island median to match the first 2 segments. And concept 2 includes relocating the Woodstock Trail closer to the roadway, 2 5-foot separated bicycle lanes separated by a 3-foot concrete barrier, a 14-foot median, and a 10-foot sidewalk. Melissa?
So select the design concept you prefer for segment 3, Walton Road to Tiffany Avenue. Concept 1, 10-foot sidewalk, proposed 20-foot center island median, 12-foot shared use pathway for Woodstock Trail. Concept 2, 10-foot sidewalk, proposed 14-foot center island median, parallel parking, 3-foot concrete buffer, 5-foot separated bike lane, and 10-foot shared use pathway for the Woodstock Trail. You can go ahead and make your selection.
And we'll go ahead and close that poll out.
So it looks as though 65% of the group likes concept 2 with 35 at concept 1.
Okay, that was a little bit more of a distinction between the two concepts. Great. And I'd like to remind everybody, to utilize that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If there's, something that you really liked or disliked, I strongly encourage you to use that button and type in any questions or comments that you have. We're going to move on to the next slide. Oh, so this is our next poll question, Melissa. And this is focusing here on the right-of-way in segment 3.
Select your preferred uses of the east side right-of-way in segment 3, Walton Road to Tiffany Avenue. You may select multiple on this. Enhanced landscape and vegetation, linear passive park with public art and plazas, linear park with recreational activities such as exercise equipment, educational signage, fishing platforms, parking, or none. You can go ahead and make your selections.
Okay, we'll close poll number 7 out.
So 57% of you like the linear park with recreational activities, followed by linear passive park with public art, and then enhanced landscape and vegetation with parking at 30%.
Great. We're getting some great feedback here. So next I'm going to be presenting some intersection concepts. So here we have 2 options for Village Green Drive and Camino de Entrada, which is the entrance to the Spanish Lakes Golf Village community. Here you see a roundabout option. Roundabouts are a traffic calming technique which slows vehicles down to 15 to 25 miles an hour. It reduces the severity of intersection collisions, improves traffic operations, it makes it safer for vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists when designed correctly. We found that a roundabout would fit at this location, and further analysis would be needed if you all vote for this concept. Next slide. So this is the second option at Village Green Drive and Camino de Entrada, and this would be the type of intersection improvements we could look at, which includes enhancements to the intersection, pedestrian crossings with signage, reducing the turn radii, or what we call extended bulb outs, which slows vehicles down when turning, and then, of course, ADA improvements. We're also showing 2 lanes coming out of the community for right and left turning. And we believe that this would improve traffic condition until there's enough traffic to warrant a signal. Next slide. And then here are your 2 options side by side. Melissa, can you read us our polling question number 8, please?
Yes. Select your preferred intersection improvement at Village Green Drive and Camino de Entrada, a roundabout or intersection.
And we can close that poll out.
Well, it's 50-50 even, roundabout or intersection.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next concept here. So for Walton Road, we'd be looking at intersection improvements, as you see here, improves crossings, and though we're showing a standard crosswalk, you can apply any type of design or stamped asphalt, and then I'll show you another picture in a minute of an artistic style of crosswalk. But we're also showing extended bulb outs here, so reducing that turning radius, slow vehicles down when turning, and it also shortens the crossing length for pedestrians when they do cross. And something else we would recommend is for the city to work with the county on traffic signalization, and improvements for not only vehicles, but for pedestrians. And then maybe looking at putting in a bicycle signal here. Next slide. All right, so we've got two options for you at Village Green Drive and Southeast Tiffany Avenue. This is our roundabout option. And again, we found that a roundabout would fit at this location, but further analysis would be conducted should you all vote for this option. Next slide. And then here is our intersection improvement option. And again, here we're showing enhanced crosswalks with pedestrian signage. And here we've got a funky artistic design for crosswalks. Again, reducing that turning radius with a extended bulb out, and also bringing a better alignment of the driveway to the medical center. Next slide. So here are the two options side by side. Melissa, can you go ahead and read us polling question number 9?
Yes, select your preferred intersection improvement at Village Green Drive and Southeast Tiffany Avenue, roundabout or intersection.
We can close out poll number 9.
So by a couple of votes, roundabout over intersection.
All right, so that's a little bit more definitive. Great, great. All right, next slide, and I'm going to hand it over to Dan Sorrow. Dan?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Christina. My name is Dan Sorrow with the land planning and landscape architecture firm Kotler & Hearing, working for and with Marlin Engineering and Firefly on this project. And this slide shows really our site analysis, our site synthesis of the entire corridor. And when you begin to talk about placemaking and branding, creating a sense of place, it's really important to look at all the elements that make a place special. So if you think of memorable streets and corridors that you've been on, you probably recognize a certain art piece or a certain feature of a bus shelter design, or some kind of wayfinding or gateway feature that stood out to you. And what we've tried to do is look at different opportunities along this corridor where we could begin to implement some of those elements and create what we feel would be a meaningful corridor for all the users along Village Green Drive. So on the highlighted circles, you can see certain nodes and certain locations where we are suggesting some of these improvements could be located, and they range from public art to street furniture and plaza improvements and just general corridor use. So we've broken this up to where this first slide, which shows the colored circles, indicates different features that we are presenting as possible options for the corridor. Next slide. This slide here shows different gateway monuments and plaza examples. So on the top left, you would have a gateway feature, coming off of the Crosstown Parkway across US 1, coming into Village Green Drive would be a great location to have one of these. They would need to be high enough, the 13-foot 6-inch clearance for the tallest vehicles, but it signifies that you're entering into a new place. Same with the image just below that. The Plaza designs and the different artwork that is already existing just west on Crosstown Parkway, such as the Guy Harvey column piece on top of the bridge with the artwork and the sculpture, and the Crosstown Plaza Parkway design with the giant snook and the pineapple sculptures are already elements that could be continued onto Village Green Drive and begin to create a memorable experience. So, we're trying to provide options for the community to consider. There's not one option being proposed tonight, but just to generate what some of the different design concepts are for gateways and plazas. And when you look at different transit components, such as bus shelters and architectural, pieces that can be used for along the corridor, we've come up with a couple different scenarios. On the top left, it does try to incorporate some public art into kind of a funky bus shelter design with the wavy bench and the picture of the manatee located on the backside of the shelter. And also, you can have very contemporary and modern transitional type architecture, as you see in the steel and glass structures, and even on the bottom where you have some built concrete structures. All of these elements can be used to tie the corridor together and start to become a branding element for the roadway. Street furniture examples, once a particular theme is chosen, whether it's coastal, Mediterranean, transitional, contemporary, I think the whole package would want to be similar in nature. So this slide shows some street furniture examples. You can get very whimsical with the whale seat, if that were, to be a kind of oceanic theme throughout the corridor. On the bottom right, you've got the giant pineapple sculpture in Crosstown Plaza with the seating around it. Those elements could be continued throughout. And just other examples of ways you can have street lights and your trash receptacles and your bollards, all the typical furniture corresponding with one another. Wayfinding is very important in a corridor project, especially when the Mid-Florida Event Credit Center has events. You want to be able to direct people to that facility, direct people to Hog Pen Slough, direct people to the medical center. So a branding effort should be employed here to where it's consistent and even continued throughout the whole corridor from Crosstown US 1 all the way to Tiffany. So these are examples of how that's been successfully implemented in other municipalities like Port St. Lucie. This slide, you can see the two colored versions that are shown on the graphic, and they really represent an opportunity for the city and the residents to take advantage of what currently exists today, but is underutilized. So the drainage area that's located in the industrial area is a pretty large right-of-way, and it's a channelized drainage district that takes stormwater runoff from Village Green Drive down to Hog Pen Slough. And also the Hog Pen Slough area, which is currently, I think kind of a secret to most residents in the city because it's very underutilized. There's no recreation activities there now. It's full of invasive exotics, but really could be implemented to be something special for the corridor and for the area. This shows a graphic of the Hog Pen Slough treatment area. What it does is it provides residents an opportunity to experience the Hog Pen Slough, gets them out on the water, gets them into nature, and really so that you can see how the different drainage systems in your city can be used to help filter the nutrients for the pollutants that get run off from stormwater onto the roads. This area can be enhanced once those invasive exotics are removed. It can be utilized to reestablish with native plant communities, which help with stormwater runoff and provides an element that really is missing today. So you've got the pedestrian corridor throughout Village Green Drive that could connect to a natural experience, kind of away from the corridor, but still is connected. And this could even tie into future connections over in the Savannas and in the Woodstock Trail. But this element could be included. So the next polling question. Well, I'm sorry, Melissa. Let me just preface the next polling question by first saying that there's many different opportunities that you could employ a boardwalk system. I'm sure you've been to many of these, but these are elements that we could easily employ here on this project and could serve the purpose for both multimodal users, bicyclers, Americans with disabilities, and pedestrians that could use this facility.
The polling question is, do you support an elevated multi-use boardwalk through Hog Pen Slough? Yes or no?
And we can close poll number 10.
88% said yes, with 13 at no.
Great. This slide shows the drainage area, which I was mentioning previously, through the industrial section leading from Village Green Drive to Hog Pen Slough through a couple of the existing properties. And really what exists today is just a concrete reinforced embankment that's channelized that takes water directly from the road to the slough area. And we thought that a real opportunity can be had by incorporating not only some pedestrian trails and a connector from Village Green Drive out to Hog Pen Slough and the boardwalk system, but also some environmental benefits by incorporating some bioswale plantings, some trees and shrubs that could not only collect the water runoff from the road, but also help filter it and produce higher quality water that ultimately goes into the Hog Pen Slough, that's going to go into the river and out to the ocean. So these graphic represents opportunities to repurpose some of those drainage areas that's currently owned by the city into something a little bit more aesthetic and functional.
So our last polling question is, do you support pedestrian access and drainage enhancements to the existing draining rights of way within the industrial area? Yes or no?
Okay, we can close that one out.
And that's a resounding yes.
All right, thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Dan. So next, I'm gonna briefly discuss the next steps. So after tonight's meeting, we'll start discussions with the county, the TPO, and other project partners to start reviewing the preferred concepts here that were decided on tonight by you all. And then, once we do get everybody's feedback, we would like to make any necessary edits, hone in on a preferred alternative, do the analysis needed for the roundabouts. We saw that folks preferred a roundabout at Tiffany, so we focus our analysis on there. and then, start finalizing the plan for 15% design and the master plan to present at the city council. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we are going to be at the March 23rd Citizens Pop-Up event at the Mid-Florida Event Center, where we will be conducting a short presentation of the concepts and have some poster boards available for folks to come in and see the different alternatives and concepts and talk to us. And then I'd also like to point out that the project website is City of Port St. Lucie or cityofpsl.org/Village Green. I thought I had that on here. I guess not. Next slide. All right, and I guess we'll break now for questions and comments. Jennifer?
Thank you, Christina. And I did want to clarify the website is cityofpsl.com/Village Green. So we did receive a few questions already through the question and answer session, so we're going to answer those live. I did want to emphasize as well that we will be still seeking public input over the coming weeks between the Citizens Summit and gathering data between those events, but also we will be developing a short survey that we'll be sending out for people that weren't able to attend tonight, that they can actually vote on their selections as well and provide feedback. So that'll be another way that we can incorporate public input into the design. So the first question is from Harry, and his question states, what is the cost differential between the choices? And I believe this is speaking to the design segments and or the roundabouts. So Christina, I'm gonna hand that over to you. I know you guys are working on cost estimates.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that number with me tonight. I have my team just started working on the cost estimates. And now that we've got a more definitive answer on the intersection concepts and designs, we plan on incorporating that so that we have a full cost estimate for the first concept and then full cost estimate for the second concept. So we will be coming up with that in the next few weeks, and I'm going to be working with Jennifer on that survey, so maybe we can have it prepared before we release the survey.
All right, the next question was questioning the difference between having two different sidewalk configurations on the segment from US Highway 1 to Walton. So we had identified two distinct segments within that corridor, and the question was just as to why the approach involved two different sidewalk configurations. Christina?
Yeah, the simple answer to that, Jennifer, is the right-of-way. On the first segment, you had 100 feet of right-of-way, and then the second segment it opens up to 150 feet of right-of-way. So that first segment's a little tight. I mean, we looked at maybe reducing or taking out the median, but there's benefits to having that median there. So we decided that wasn't an option. And then also looking at landscaping, we didn't want to really take away from landscaping and understanding that, there's certain widths required for landscaping, especially if you're gonna have shade trees. So we wanted to make sure that there was room for landscaping, shade trees. And so that's why you see the differences in that first and second segment.
Thanks, Christina. And also the segment to the south of Walton is 150 feet, so it does provide an opportunity for a nice transition, a gradual transition between those rights of way. The next question is roundabouts make sense where cross traffic from both directions is more equal, maybe not necessarily the case at a neighborhood entrance. Do you want to address why the roundabout concept was proposed there, Christina?
Yeah, so we looked at a few different intersections for the roundabouts, and we thought that let's figure out where they could fit first, and then we can do further analysis. our traffic engineer is present here, and you know, she could talk more to that point if you'd like. But you know, the main thing was providing folks with some concepts, and then having them voice their opinions and pick a choice, and then we'd do further analysis to see if it would actually in fact work.
Yeah. Hello?
Hi, Myra.
Hi, this is Myra Patina with Marlin Engineering. I'm just having some video problems. You can only see my background, not me, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, as long as you can hear me. As far as the roundabout comment, yes, that is a true statement. So we would be looking at, you know, as Christina mentioned, I think all the options were just put on the table just to throw them out there, but we will be looking at what would be technically feasible and logical. And, you know, more than likely at the neighborhood entrance, you know, you're going to have the through traffic on the major road. And therefore, yes, the neighborhood may have some difficulty in entering a roundabout. So we will, you know, we'll analyze that and look at the numbers in you know, in detail. You know, Marlon's following mostly the intersection control evaluation process that's been promoted by FDOT. And so we kind of like apply that loosely to neighborhood, you know, municipal roads and things like that, because it's a good, you know, a good rule of thumb to use. But we're keenly aware of the issues when you have traffic that is more heavily weighed on one roadway segment versus another. The entering traffic will, you know, from those side streets will have some difficulty. So we'll look at that very closely before we make final recommendations for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Myra.
Thanks, Myra and Christina. The next question is, if there will still be a bus route, will the stops be utilizing a loading zone off the road?
So I briefly mentioned that there is a transit available on that third segment, which is between Walton Road and Tiffany Avenue. And judging by, you know, just the comments and the polling tonight, it looks like folks like that second option where you saw the parallel parking, which, you know, definitely provides for some type of a bus zone for folks, and of course improvements to and access to that transit stop. And for folks that aren't aware, the existing transit stop is in front of the Midport Place condominium community. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, the next one is not a question, but more of just a comment on the presentation and being able to read some of the verbiage that's below the pictures. So we understand that one of the challenges with holding a virtual meeting is the quality in which things translate as they're relayed over the internet. The presentation itself that's being shown tonight will be made available on our website, and there is extreme clarity in there for you to be able to look at the presentation and kind of zoom in on each of those options if you would like some more information on that. And then we also were trying to focus on making the pictures a little bit larger to assist with your decision-making process on some of those questions. So the next question is, I live at Spanish Lakes and I would like to see a traffic light eventually. The traffic has already increased a lot. Getting into a bus roundabout is sometimes difficult. Is this a possibility? So I think the question is, I'm sorry, it's supposed to be getting into a busy roundabout is sometimes difficult. So I think the question was wanting to see a traffic light there.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the traffic today, it doesn't look like it would, you have to do a warrant study, and from just preliminary analysis, it looks like it doesn't have enough traffic to warrant that study. But, you know, we can definitely look a little bit closer at that and then provide a recommendation to the city on doing a full warrant study, or potentially maybe in the future when traffic picks up a little bit more to do that warrant study.
Yeah.
Hey, Jennifer, let me chime in a second.
Thanks, Heath.
It wasn't too long ago after the opening of Crosstown Parkway, the city did a warrant analysis at that intersection based upon the new traffic volumes. Like Christina said, it did not warrant a signal. However, we did install the left turn lane, which would assist the residents in getting off the through lanes while they're waiting to make a left turn. It's not out of the question to reevaluate that once volumes do increase. However, a big part of those warrants is the side street traffic. So if that community is built out, it's not likely that there would ever be a generation of enough traffic to warrant a traffic signal. So in that, it may be more beneficial to consider the roundabout, whereas the roundabout will serve several purposes. One, as traffic control, two, as traffic calming, and three, as beautification and creating somewhat of an entryway into that section of Village Green. So it's not off the table, but what we've seen so far, the volume hasn't been there to warrant a signal.
Thanks, Heath. Another comment we received: as a healthcare worker, I prefer roundabouts as they are statistically safer. So that was a comment received. And just an acknowledgement, Dwayne, thank you for being at the meeting tonight and chiming in. Stephen said, thank you for all your work. The slides look great. Would love to see this beautification and improved neighborhood integrity. And we do have one more question pending. It says, what are the impacts to the businesses on Village Green? Are they going to lose space for parking? Christina, you can speak to working within the existing right-of-way.
Yeah, so we're everything we looked at was within the existing right of way. So we wouldn't necessarily be going on to. We didn't go and look at private property or expanding the right of way. We looked at working within that right of way. So everything we showed you tonight is working within the city public owned property.
Thanks, Christina. Another question is, if part of the goal is to move or slow the flow of traffic away from industrial part of Village Green Drive, wouldn't a roundabout at Walton defeat that somewhat? And Dwayne, just to clarify, there is no roundabout proposed at Walton. There is one at Camino and then another one possibly down at Tiffany. So I don't believe there was any option for incorporating one at Walton. And another comment, I believe this project will increase visibility and accessibility to the businesses. And we did do an extensive business outreach in the area. We've incorporated businesses through our stakeholder meetings, surveys, and things like that. So we're really trying to engage the local businesses there to find out what the challenges are, as well as, what their wants, needs, and desires are to see along that corridor. So we've really tried to engage not only the residents and the adjacent communities, but the businesses as well. And as of right now, we have no pending questions. I do want to circle back and remind everyone that we will be featured during the annual Citizen Summit in Port St. Lucie that kicks off on March 2nd with a virtual event here in the council chambers. You can watch that live. And then we will have a series of events throughout March. The first one's at Winter Lakes on March 6th, followed by one that is kind of co-chaired with our hazardous waste event on March 13th. And then on March 23rd, we do have our evening event featuring a Village Green Drive presentation at the Mid-Florida Credit Union Event Center. We will also be creating and distributing a survey, so we do encourage you to provide that information to anybody you think who would like to take the survey and provide feedback to us. Are there any additional questions this evening? The question, will this help pave the way for Walton Drive to go over Indian River Lagoon to Hutchinson Island? And I believe there's a winky face with that one. Heath, I'm going to let you answer about the Walton Drive extension.
So, will it pave the way? I don't know. kind of a tough question. Related though, council has requested we do an exploratory report to see what the hurdles would be to extend Walton Road eventually over to Hutchinson Island. And so that will be presented at the city's winter retreat. It is open to the public, not necessarily a public meeting, but is open to the public. So that will be discussed. The biggest challenge, one, environmental, two, time frame. By the time we get there, without getting into a political debate, sea level rise projections show portions of Hutchinson Island being underwater by the time that bridge will get there. So there's a lot of hurdles to that, but it's not off the table. So that's I know that's a little tongue in cheek from Stephen, but nonetheless, still it's on the radar.
Thanks, Heath. And I have one more question for you because I know this project really falls under Public Works. As far as the construction itself, how long would it take for the traffic circle to be installed at Spanish Lake? So maybe, Heath, can you address the overall construction timeline of this project?
Yeah, it's really depending upon what is prioritized through the corridor. Are we going to try to do the whole thing as one project? Are we trying to piecemeal it and do certain intersections? Are we going to work on sidewalks first? That's really up to you, the residents, to tell us what you want, because funding is really going to be an issue. That's, I'm not going to pretend it's not. Money's always a challenge. So it's going to take money to build this. So if we have limited money, where do we put it? Do we wait? Do we have all the money? It's probably not the best way to go. So as we get money, what do we want to do with it? Jennifer and other panelists, that may be a good question to have. If we have limited funding, what amenities would you like to see, expedited as opposed to others? And so maybe that's one of the treatments is the roundabout. But assuming that we had funding, let's just play hypothetically. Assuming we had the money to do it, we could have a roundabout installed, designed and installed within probably a year. So it's not a terribly long time frame. The unknown though is the funding. There's currently no funding for the construction of this project.
Thanks, Heath. And I know our staff has been working on looking at grant opportunities to the extent that they relate to this project and the different elements. So that'll be something that's key to and being strategic with timing on how those grants come through and when items would need to be constructed. So. And we just had to thank you to our staff for working on this and giving residents a voice. So again, that's one of our biggest priorities is to make sure that we get as much public input on these projects as possible. So we encourage you to be on the lookout for additional feedback opportunities with the project and sharing that with your friends and your neighbors and your coworkers that can really provide us input. We do have one question that popped up. So our entrance would be a mess for a year. And I'm not sure if the question at that Valenti is related to the residential or just any of the commercial. If maybe it's a year, is that, Heath, what you were speaking to? It takes about a year for a roundabout, not the actual construction.
That's not necessarily the construction. I'm just saying if we had money right now to go through design, permitting, and construction, it would take about a year. So, for a roundabout that size, we could probably do it in 6 months. But yeah, your entrance would be messed up for 6 months if that were the case. But again, there's no current plan to do that because we don't have any funding to do that.
And I know some of the feedback that we got initially with the business day when they went out and kind of canvassed the businesses was they were very excited about the project, but concerned about the impact that the construction would have on their business operations. So that's something the city is very sensitive to. And we'll make sure that we, to the greatest extent possible, can minimize that and or mitigate it during the construction process when it does happen. So with that, I think we are done for the evening, unless there's any other closing comments. Very happy that you took an hour out of your evening tonight to join us for this project. Again, it is one of the city's strategic goals in working to beautify the city. So we're very happy that you have been a part of us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you guys again. Thank you.